Well, good morning. Breakfast at the Broker every Tuesday morning. We have a very exciting and special guest, a titan in the real estate industry. And now, by way of Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, he is the broker owner of prominent properties, Sotheby's International Realty, with 12 offices and more than 630 agents. He is the immediate past president of the National Association of Realtors. In 2021, he was the NAR president. He is 2021 RIS Media luminary newsmaker. He is a husband, a father, a son, a philanthropist, a real estate industry advocate, a lover of all things basketball. Stand up and make some noise for Charlie, the man Oppler.
Morning, David. Thank you for that.
Good morning.
I didn't know I was all of those things, but the one thing I did realize is we're now at 15 offices and 750 agents. So,
Wow.
this is a market that obviously gives you opportunities that you have to be a little bit of a risk taker, knowing it won't last forever, but you get a chance to build. And certainly our brand, Sotheby's, is
Phenomenal
to me, it's
brand.
the best brand that we would be involved with, given where our market is and being a suburb of New York City. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, New Jersey. Yeah, no, I mean New Jersey. My wife's from New Jersey. And we have a lot of New Jersey transplants from South Florida, obviously, or in South Florida. And let's start with before we get into questions about leadership and your journey. How's the New Jersey market?
I think New Jersey's like a lot of markets where we have limited inventory, and I think that's kind of a misnomer. There are people out there that want to sell. I think they just are trying to figure out what's the best method, and realtors that are aggressive and that know a market know how to reach those people without the property being on the market.
Yeah,
It can't
agreed.
be a market that is struggling when you have over 6 million sales last year. And I get a little defensive when people say there's no inventory. Well, what did you sell? Did you sell ice cream on the beach behind you, or did you sell a home that was not on the market long? So for me, the inventory's there. The shelf life has been greatly reduced. Heck, 2 years, 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, it was 60 or 90 days of inventory. Now, arguably, in some markets, it's less than 30 days, and everything that has a value to somebody else, because that's what it's all about, has multiple offers. So if it comes on the market Friday, it's gone by Monday. It doesn't feel like it was inventory, but yet it was because somebody purchased it.
Yeah, and it's good and bad, because when you look at our profession and the real estate industry as a whole, we have some really amazing people, career oriented, professional, take care of consumers, you know, but even it makes the third grade teacher or elementary school teacher the shark in this industry when they get a listing, and now all of a sudden they're in charge and they get to, well, you have 25 offers, and well, you're not going to do this and I'm not going to do this. So it really does make it a little bit more cutthroat than normal.
Well, I think two things. Number one, somebody hired that person. So a lot of that goes on the broker, and are they putting out a quality person to represent maybe somebody's biggest financial asset? So to me, if I hire somebody, it's incumbent on me to make sure that person is able to represent somebody at the highest level. Second of all, and I think something that's kind of misleading is we've got almost 1,600,000 agents. But if we go back 5 years, we didn't have the team structure that we have today. So a lot of people that seem that they're not doing business are part of a bigger team that goes under one person's name. And again, that's training and doing a job that you're supposed to do for a seller and a buyer. And we kind of teach in our company that this is more than a service industry; it's a skills industry. Negotiating is a skill; it's not a service. Understanding your fiduciary is a skill, not a service. So a lot of those things we look at and make sure that our agents understand clearly.
Agreed. So, tell me a little bit about. I mean, we already mentioned, about 15 offices, and you said over 730 agents.
Yep.
Um, you know, um, Tell us a little bit about your real estate background, and the path to leadership. Because it's funny because someone this morning asked me like, "Oh, are you going to be NAR president?" I said, "No, no, no. You don't like be NAR president. It like kind of happens like." I said, I think they're working on like 2030 slates. Like, like,
It's funny. You hear a lot of names of people that, would be good choices, and talented people. I started in this business in 1981. I worked with the March of Dimes out of college for a year. And that's one of my passions in terms of giving back and doing more. But I recruited two of the top independent brokers to co-chair an event. And within 30 days, they both told me how great I do in real estate. Neither one told me it was a commission business. But I was making $12,000. So, in 81, that didn't seem terrible. And that's how I got into the business and got my license. It was 35 hours in New Jersey. Within 3 years, I was managing for the largest independent broker in the country. And in 92, just 8 years later, I partnered with my partner, still gives you the opportunities to grow and meet people. And that's really what it did for me. And got involved in my local board in the late 80s. I ran one of the bigger offices in the area, and if somebody called me and said, you should serve on the board of directors, put my name in and got selected. 10 years later, I was a local board president. No aspirations to do anything more. Just make sure that I was able to manage my office and my company. 8 years later, I'm the president of New Jersey. Don't ask me how. Somebody thought I would be a good president, and served on a couple national committees beginning in 2000, 2001. And then in 2005 really was the break, if you will, to go to greater heights on the association level, because unfortunately the regional vice president for New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania got ill. And we rotated between the three states. So it was New Jersey's turn. And the other states voted on who they thought should be his replacement. And each state had 2 votes. And I won the vote, if you will, 5-1. I voted against myself because I thought somebody else from New Jersey should have an opportunity before me. And I became a regional vice president and was in a class with John Smaby, 2019 president, Chris Polychrone, 2017 president.
Wow.
Steve Brown, 2014 president, Mo Vesey, 2012 president, and Vicky Cox-Golder, 2010 president. And there were 2 DSAs, for anybody that doesn't know, which is a Distinguished Service Award winner, which is a minimum of 25 years of service to NAR and your local board. So Bob Kulick from California and Gene Crosby from Illinois. So I was in a class of luminaries. I mean, really industry icons. And come 2015, I was a vice president for Chris Polychrone. And when that year was over, a bunch of people came to me and said, you really could do a great job for NAR. I had a son who was a freshman in high school and a daughter who was a senior in high school. So it hadn't crossed my mind. And I wanted to watch him play basketball his 4 years, which would have been a graduate in 2018. And sure enough, I put my name in the ring and won a very close election over a very talented past president from Florida. Sherry Meadows, who certainly would have done a great job as well at NAR and was selected by the members. And heck, it's over already. So now it's back to work and continuing to do what you do for other people.
Well, it's amazing, the service and stuff. And I think people that aren't involved, maybe in even just the local association level, they don't understand the amount of time and dedication, that you give to an association, and they don't really understand how you get there, right? So, thank you for allowing us, some insight into, how you get into NAR president, and really, as most people say, you just asked. You're not necessarily, you don't aspire to be National Association of Realtors president, in most cases.
I think that's a great point. All of us are involved because somebody else asked us to. At every level, if you've made an investment in RPAC, somebody asked you to. If you served on a charitable foundation, somebody asked you to, and then it becomes a passion. And a couple of things along the road, you're only going to be successful, in my opinion, if you're authentic and honest, if you're passionate about what you do, and you trust other people along the road, because nobody does anything by themselves. I was very fortunate to have a very talented liaison team, committee chair team. They were in the industry, and that was the one pillar for me. Is I want to be able to pick up a phone and call George Guerra or Tommy Choi or Maura Neal or any of the people across the country, because I knew they had their pulse on the real estate industry. They weren't just, okay, this is another check box. I was served as a liaison. No, what are you doing that makes it better for our members? And you take, so many of those individuals, they're at work every morning at 7:00. They're doing their things in the morning, and half the time they're the last person to leave the building. And always could reach them, and they could reach me. And again, it was always what's best for the members. And you can do that when you're in the industry.
Yep, agreed. What advice would you give either prospective or current National Association of Realtors directors? Because when you're going or what advice could you give as far as the preparation and how do you speak with authority and can vote with a strong background in each topic being discussed? When you're going into these board of director meetings and or committee meetings,
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to be either in local association or as a National Association Realtor Director?
A couple of things, and that's a great point. The two things for me are, number one, be in the moment. Do the job that you've been asked to do. If you're a committee member, be the best committee member you can be. Your chance to be a chair or vice chair or something down the road is always going to present itself if you do your job. But don't be the vice president of the board, for instance, and tell everybody you can't wait to be president, because that means you don't trust or respect the person in front of you, and you're not understanding what your role is that year. So for me, it's be in the moment, do the job that you've been asked to do and serve that you said yes to, and do it to the best of your ability. The second one is be prepared. One of the things I learned last year is I read almost everything that was sent to me, so that if I was either going to have to testify at Congress or run a meeting or discuss something, whether it was advocacy, MLS, anything, I was prepared. So I was in the office a lot of mornings just reading, because I read better in the morning than I do late in the afternoon. I feel better when there's nobody around, no phone, and I can say, okay, let me make sure I understand this. And if I didn't, I'd call the person at NAR staff that oversaw that committee or that area, or I'd call somebody that may know something better than I do because they were the committee chair and could give me the history. So I would say be prepared and be in the moment.
Love it. Thank you. Because preparation is really everything. Going into committee meetings and such, and just in real estate industry in general. What were the hot topics during your years on NAR's leadership team and during your year as NAR president?
Yeah, we had a couple big ones. Obviously, the pandemic created havoc with our industry, as so many industries. So being able to advocate as real estate being an essential business and being able to carry on in most states, some states, some cities had restrictions, certainly New York City, because of the high rise market and the elevators and the amenities was an issue. But our advocacy team in DC went to Congress to make sure that we were declared an essential business, because people in the middle of a contract, contract law is still going to be protected. So if your closing was going to be April 1st, how are you going to make that happen? Because somebody needs the money to buy somewhere else. So our advocacy team really worked with the rescue bill and the CARES bill. It really was the last time that I think Congress worked bipartisan, because it was about people. Now it's about politics, and they've lost sight of that. Second, we've got the lawsuits in NAR where people are challenging the way our business works and our transparency, including the Department of Justice, and having to be a spokesperson in that time. It's really easy for me to say this is one of the most competitive businesses that's out there, and that it's pro-consumer and always has been. So for those that say it's not, show me a better way than multiple listing and clear cooperation to give everybody an opportunity to purchase a property. Those would be the hot topics. I think diversity, equity, and inclusion is the other area that I made a priority, and that we're going to continue to make a priority at NAR, because we just have to do a better job. We were responsible for the low home ownership rates in the African American community. But it's not just there; it's the Asian community and also the Latino community that is well behind white home ownership. And we've got to do a better job with credit scoring and opportunity, so that anybody and everybody has the same opportunity to buy a piece of property and build generational wealth. So that was a big pillar for me. And the last one was the Realtor Relief Foundation, which was really easy in the sense it was the 20th anniversary of those horrific, atrocities, and knowing the heart of our membership, it was really something that I thought we would step up, and we raised over $9 million as the Realtor Association. And, a month after our meeting in San Diego, look what happened in Arkansas, Kentucky, and Illinois. We wrote our biggest check ever, which was over $1.5 million to members and others in that area, because they were just devastated when a whole town disappears. I just can't even imagine. We get snowstorms and nor'easters, but we don't experience the loss of property. We may have property damage, but to see a whole town wiped out and people perish, I just can't even imagine. So being able to help with the fires out west and the tornadoes and the hurricanes, which you experience in Florida, it gives me great satisfaction that, not only is it the dollars that we've educated our members, because 20 years ago when 9/11 happened, or 21 years ago, coming up, our members may not have been part of the Realtor Association to know what we did in the first 3 months, raise $8 million and help 3,000 families. That to me speaks volumes. And I just felt like we could make a difference, and the 20th anniversary just happened to fall the year I was president. So nothing more than, an educational and financial opportunity for our members.
So you really had nothing going on during your presidency.
No, and then of course, at the same time, the market was super hot, and we did better than we ever did as a company. We did 3.1 billion, which,
Wow.
For our marketplace and across the country will put us in the top 100, 110, whatever, who knows what the rankings say, but we're one of the top companies in the country, and it's because I've got great managers, great support, and fabulous agents. So, that was my part-time job.
Well, very well said. So, every president has, that one issue or one thing that comes up that's totally unexpected. It's like the unknown issue that you have to deal with. Can you think of an unknown issue that arose during your presidency? And if so, did you have to step away from the issues that were part of your planned agenda and just handle this new unknown? Or was it possible to tackle all of them and still have members in the association, leaders, really understanding what they needed to do to resolve these issues?
I think when you're part of a leadership team for 3 or 4 years, right? Because you become first vice president, president-elect, president, and then you're on the team as a past president. But you realize that you're in a mentoring position then for the first vice president. Sure, the lawsuits, the Department of Justice, pandemic, if you will. I take office in 19. We do President's Circle in Miami in February of 20, and then the world shuts down in March. So I think what you learn is that you can handle any situation that's unexpected. So to answer that question, that's easy because nobody expected a pandemic. Nobody expected that on a Friday that the world was going to shut down on Monday and have no real idea what was going to happen. As I told our team, I think it'll be a 2 or 3 week break. We'll understand more about COVID, and then we're all back to work. Well, 3 months later, right, we all go back to work. And remember, we were the epicenter right in the beginning in New York and New Jersey because of the international travel and New York airports and New Jersey airports were the most people that had traveled through China at the time. That brought it back. So I think being prepared leads you to be prepared for anything. And our NAR staff and Zoom was a company, then it became a verb. Google was a company, it became a verb. Now we talk about a Zoom meeting, even though we're going to use StreamYard or Google Meets or whatever might be the case. In everybody's mind, it's a Zoom call. So I think we were able to run the association, not miss a beat, if you will, once you realize that, every day goes on. How you adjusted to it and how you dealt with it was watched by everybody. And Vince Malta, who was the 2020 president, and I probably talked every morning for a half hour just, to say, is there something we're not doing? Where do the members need us? And that's where we came up with the Right Tools Right Now program, because we all knew people were sitting at home and education was an opportunity. So we really just said, okay, life goes on. What gets thrown at us 3 years from now, who knows? We all pray it's not anything that's pandemic-like. But, what happens if we see a recession? Are we going to be able to work with our legislature to make sure interest rates stay in control? We have no idea where inflation goes because it's tied to oil and so many other things that are not in our control because of what's happening in Europe and Russia and Ukraine and all the other countries. But yet we have to be prepared to do certain things that support our members, whatever they may be.
What was the hardest thing and your favorite part of being president of the National Association of Realtors?
Hardest thing was not having the ability to meet with our congressional representatives because I really think we make a better impact in person. Yet they were more than willing to be on a Zoom call, meet with us virtually. But that face-to-face communication was the hardest part, not being able to have certain meetings because that's what our members really thrive on. Um, so that to me was the most difficult part. And from a challenge standpoint, I look at things one day at a time as best I can. So I just enjoyed the moment and trying to make a difference, trust the people that I worked with, and make it better for everybody involved. Um, and I think our team did a great job.
Last couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What you know, the president and the president elect or the vice president, they sit down and they make committee appointments.
Yep.
And what are things that annoy you that would make you reconsider the appointment, and what are things that were maybe insightful and really would make you say, you know what, I would like to appoint this person to the National Association of Realtor Committee?
Yeah, I think, you talk about challenges. Without being able to travel for the most part for 18 months, you didn't get to meet as many people as you normally would have. I know a lot of members across the country, but obviously it's a handful compared to what we have. With committee membership, I think it's twofold. Number one, it's somebody raising their hand and saying, I want to serve. But you can't go from a board of director at a local board saying, I want to be the chairperson of one of the top committees, whatever it might be in your liking, whether it's public policy, MLS, professional standards. I mean, we have so many committees that are, that have different flavors, if you will. So I think, for those that want to serve, make sure you get to know who the leaders in your state are. So in Florida, get to know Christina Pappas and Christine Hansen and Eric Sane and Barry Grooms and all the people that have served over the past 5 years, and say, what can I do to make a difference in Florida? And have you made a difference at your local board?
By the way, it's Eric Sane's birthday today.
It is. Yeah, he sent me a
Happy
note
birthday,
yesterday
Eric.
to make a contribution to his charity. And I
Yep.
wrote back and I said, remember, mine's in July. I just haven't picked the charity yet, but it might be me. But, I think you've got to get involved and know who the local people are and where you can make a difference locally. And if you haven't done anything locally, you can't expect to be moved up in Florida and then nationally. By the same token, there's so many talented people out there in the country that just need a break. So when I was appointing committees in 20 for 21, there were a number of people I didn't know, but I looked at their resume, did a little bit of homework with some other people, and said, what do you think about this person? So we probably appointed 300 to 500 members who had never been on a national committee, so that we could start to bring in new people, because I think there's a great opportunity to learn from people that are naive, as long as they speak. And again, that's be in the moment. Don't just check the box and say, I'm on this committee. Participate. So you've got to be involved, and you've got to put your name in. You can't be selected if you don't raise your hand. But when you do raise your hand, participate.
Is there anything that would prevent you? Is there anything that someone does or that you've noticed, either a trend or something that that annoys you? Is there, I see like
Yep.
a lot of times people are like campaigning for committees, and those kind of things. Is that something that,
fair or unfair? When I see a lot of social media that's about that individual, not about others, that's probably the one thing that gets me personally, because to me, service is about other people. So when you're posting every day about how great you are or what you had for breakfast and things like that, that to me, certain social media is about business and about what you can do for other people. Certainly you can post something if it's meaningful to you. And the other part is I look for people that are thankful and grateful to be in the position of leadership, because I do think it's an opportunity to improve something in our industry. And when you do something for other people, you generally make better decisions.
Agreed, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And you even had a the Maya Angelou quote that I looked at, and I use it all the time. You may not always remember what I said, but you're always going to remember the way I made you feel. And and that's everything to me regarding not just leadership, but in life. You have to make people. You got to be empathetic. You got to make people feel the way you want them to feel, and be conscientious of that.
Yeah, and I think I've got 4 kids and 2 grandchildren, so you're always trying to make sure that they're in a better position. But you see what people around them are doing, and give you a great example. My son's on spring break in your wonderful state, and he texted last night. I'm probably in a 2-star hotel, and my buddies are in a 4 or 5-star hotel right down the block, but I'm with some friends, and things couldn't be better. He's grateful for the opportunity to just spend that extra time with his friends, and they don't look at, is the room a bare bones, it's a bed to sleep in for kids on a college break, and I'm lucky to have my kids have that perspective about doing things for other people. So for him not to complain and say, hey, can I use the credit card and see if I can get a room next door? Instead, he was grateful that he gets to spend a week with 3 of his buddies, and they're seniors in college, that, in 3 months, it's on to a new world. And, one of his roommates from Massachusetts, one's from Pennsylvania, and one's local in New Jersey. But, how often will he see those guys again come September? So
Yeah.
he's grateful that they get the time together versus where he's staying. So, I was proud of him.
So, now that you're immediate past president, what was that transition like from, being from president and going to past president or immediate past president, and then going into the future? And how do you stay involved and helpful, yet allow others to now step up and take other roles, or take the roles
I,
that you had before?
I think when you're on a team, you understand your role.
Mhm.
You know, so I knew my role was to be supportive for John Smaby and Vince, and then I knew both Leslie and Kenny should be supportive of me. So my feeling is that you're part of a team for 4 years. You know what your role is each year, but it's just about a title change. Hopefully, your team does what's best for every member all the time. And fortunately, I have a business that I have to attend to. So the lack of having to do a Zoom call at 10 o'clock at night overseas, or to have a meeting to have to run to, is a little easier, because you don't have that daily grind as a past president that you do as a president and a president elect. But yet, I'm going to DC later this afternoon because there's the installation of the NAREP president, Luis Padilla from Florida, who I've known for a long time, and thought that NAR should have representation there, and I can hop on a train at 11:30 and be back in my office tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So, those are the kind of things that I enjoy, because it's recognizing somebody else's contribution. Um, and I'm going to be the chair of credentials committee next year, which oversees the elections. This year I'm vice chair by definition. So I'm going to obviously stay involved, but to me, it's more of a mentor. I've had my opportunity, and I got called to serve on the local board as a director. And I said to the CEO, I said, I'm honored that others would like me to be there. I've done my job at that level. Pick somebody that hasn't had the opportunity, and I'll come in and do a mentorship program and say, this is what you need to do to move forward, because it's somebody else's time. Fortunately, I've had my opportunity, and now your job, if you will, or your responsibility is to educate as to how somebody else makes a difference.
Well, I can't thank you enough for the leadership that you've given for the National Association of Realtors and the real estate industry as a whole. It's been certainly it was a difficult year in 21, and going in just from issues being thrown left and right, and we certainly appreciate you and everything that you've done and the team has done. I always end the Breakfast with the Broker with two questions. Well, it's one question basically. What is your favorite streaming series of all time, and what are you currently watching?
I guess Sopranos is probably my favorite series of all time, maybe because it's in New Jersey. And the way it ended, I've eaten in that Holstein's restaurant. I'm going to call it a restaurant. It's just a little hole in the wall that has great ice cream and great burgers. So Sopranos, I think, would be my favorite. And then the one I like most right now is Billions, because, just like Shark Tank, I'm always trying to learn something from somebody else. And both of those shows make me think a little bit on occasion. The arrogance is one side of it, the business is the other side. But again, it's what can I learn and still be entertained? And then, as you said earlier, this is a great weekend for me because college basketball's March Madness starts, and I'm a big Kentucky fan because the coach is a good friend of mine, and just looking forward to 3 weeks of craziness.
Well, love it. Roll Tide.
And that's the fun part.
I went to University of Alabama, so I'll be rooting my Tide on, who can beat anyone in the country and can lose to anyone in the country.
Well, you talk about a small world. I watched Javon Quinterly play since 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
Because he's a New Jersey kid and played against my son in AAU. And he was as good then as he is now. There's sometimes that he doesn't make great decisions on the court, but he is a super talented player.
Just too many turnovers.
Yeah, because he can do things that other people can't do.
Agreed.
But he's a great player. But I'm hoping that our Rutgers team can beat Notre Dame and then take out Alabama.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen. But you know what? Listen, Alabama has lost 3 in a row, and they've been a little shaky over the last 10 games.
Well, that's what makes it fun. You get to cheer for your locals, and you get to cheer for your alma maters. I guess you get to pound your chest when it's football season, though.
I do.
To say the least. I appreciate it.
Charlie, thank you so much. And really, I mean, from the bottom of our heart, we really appreciate your leadership and mentorship throughout this process. And thank you for coming on and agreeing to come on Breakfast with the Broker. So Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Thanks again, and wishing you much success and congratulations as well. And have a safe trip to DC.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
You too.